One. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David Strege, and here in the room with me, I have Mosley. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man.
So
pretty damn good, actually.
Today I figured since you want to get prepared for the Universal Legacy collection, I figured we'd go on about a Western, and it is a kind of a catchy title, but it's also known as several different names. And let me just say the title. The title of it is called They Call Him Cemetery, and it was filmed in 1971, and the director of it at the time went under the name of Anthony Ascot, but he was an Italian in reality, and his real name is Giuliano Carnimeo. So and Giuliano Carnimeo is kind of interesting because he was actually somewhat bigger in the Western sphere. He also did a couple of sword and sandal films, and he also did a Giallo film back in 1983 called The Exterminator of the Year 3000. So except there again, he used another pseudonym as Jules Harrison. So I guess Italians, just to get their names out there or whatnot, had to go under different names. Maybe names that could be pronounceable,
Yeah, to be fair, unless it's like Dario Argento or Lucio Fulci, I just fucking butcher them every time. So if they want to use a pen name, that's understandable,
But in any case, the reason why I kind of wanted to do this particular one is we went on Inside Movies Galore with the Cat of Nine Tails, and one of the characters in there that was kind of a kooky character ended up being in this Western. So I kind of thought, hey, why not just go ahead and try to see if I can't find this film, and lo and behold, it was actually on YouTube for free to watch, and the character, his actor name is Ugo Fangareggi, but he on IMDb he goes by the name of Sancho in here, but the copy that we watched actually has him go as Pedro.
I think Sancho in Mexican is like a phrase for the dude that fucks your wife while you're in prison. So that's pretty funny.
Okay.
I think Americans call him Jody. Like when you're deployed with the military or you're in jail and like someone's banging your wife, that's Jody.
Interesting. But let me go ahead and just say what IMDb says about this film before we go on forward. So John and George McIntyre, apparently they're two Irish brothers, are a couple of naive brothers who travel to a lawless western town to see their father. The bumbling siblings get themselves into big trouble after they beat up a member of a gang of extortionists.
This shit kicked him good too.
Fortunately, a mysterious roving gunfighter decides to help the guys out of their jam. So, I'm just going to ask it, Mo. What was this a first time watch for you, and what were your first thoughts of this film?
Oh, it was definitely a first time watch for me, and it definitely won't be the last. It's just amazing, man. It's got everything you like about spaghetti westerns, good slapstick comedy, like shitty kung fu movie dubs. It's just, what's not to love about it? And it manages to pull it all off without being totally corny, and so that it just all comes together very nicely. You got your pistol packing grannies, bullet sucking babies, There's just so much to say about it, and I'm sure we'll get into all of that. But I definitely loved it. My first impression of it, I don't think could have been stronger.
This was also my first time watching this film. I mean, I started watching it like last week, but I ended up finishing up. I like got like 18 minutes into the fucker, and so of course, whenever you're watching something on YouTube, it just picks up wherever the fuck you left off at. So, but yeah, I actually thought it had everything that it needed to be. I mean, it had some pretty bad dubbing, but other
that
than
can't be helped though, you know, for the time period and all that. Like,
it really can't. I mean, for
I
the
will
most
say this about it: like the dubbing might have been bad, but it's accurate enough. Like you could tell based on the performances, we're not losing a ton in translation like on other dubs. They didn't totally phone it in. You know, I think they translated it pretty well. I think just the delivery with the people that they had to do the dub work wasn't the best, you know?
yeah, I'm assuming that the Italians had the same technology that the Japanese did with their Godzilla film. So obviously you're going to have that the lips going faster than the words at times. So you're going to have that continuous screw up problem when you have the dubs, and you're trying to get like accuracy when these people are speaking. So at the time, they probably did not have the computer technology that we do now in order to like move those mouths.
Right. Yeah, it's not quite as synced up as it could be. But it's not like, you know, particularly bad. It has that same charming quality of a bad kung fu dub, but it's not like so bad to the point where you know that what they're saying isn't what's really going. Like I'm sure you've watched kung fu movies where it's like this isn't what these guys are saying at all. Someone's just putting words to this that kind of vaguely match their mouths, you know.
Well, and the other name that this film has is actually Bullet for. I believe it's called Bullet for a. Let's see. Let me see here. Bullet for a Stranger, and that is actually the more popular title that evidently was in the U.S. at the time. But I actually kind of like this title better. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Bullet for a Stranger is cool, but you know, it also sounds like a song title for an emo band or something. They call him Cemetery. Sounds like fucking awesome, and they do call him Cemetery. You know, we'll get to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, they do call him Cemetery in here. Although IMDb, let's see, they have him as Camposanto, which might actually mean cemetery in Spanish. I don't know.
Probably. I know. I think the poster that I shared in the group when I started watching the movie, I believe if you translate it, it actually says his pistol smoked, and they call him Cemetery. But that's a mouthful for American audiences, you know. So you trim a little bit off of that when you retitle a movie.
Well, I'm going to say this: Sergio Leone definitely set the stage for this kind of a western. I mean, you got the Man in Black who rides into. He's a separate entity, kind of, but he's kind of with the story to me. Because you see him arrive separately than the obviously the two brothers that had no shit about nothing.
Actually, at first he's really not even involved in their plot, other than that I think those graves are for his family, like next to their mom's grave or whatever. But he's really not like involved in their plot at first. He just keeps happening by, and the assholes that are fucking with the brothers, which they kind of deserve to a point. And like they just keep trying to pick a fight with this guy, and he's the wrong hombre to fuck with, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. So in this beginning sequence, we see the brothers arrive, I believe by wagon train, if I remember correctly. Because that's kind of a little bit different than an actual train ride. It's just, it seemed like this was like a a bigger wagon train, like one of those ones where it actually had several cars on wheels, because it seemed like there were a few more people on this wagon train than
Yeah, it was
you
some mass transit shit for the time for sure.
two-man seater stagecoach.
A little more liberal than a train ride too. Apparently, you could fire like weapons from the fucking windows without getting kicked off immediately. So that's
Right, and there was
fun.
a priest on board, so at least if someone died, he could say someone's blessings or some shit like
Yep.
that. But what did you think about this opening sequence?
It's almost perfect, man. I mean, it introduces them as kind of like these snooty aristocratic people from out east that have no clue how shit works out in the west. Like they think that this granny is going to be the most passive person on the train because they're the only people there that aren't packing weapons. And then it turns out she's got a fucking big old piece in her purse and she just blows the fuck out of a cactus after she takes some snuff from him. And then there's a baby sucking on a bullet. I mean, it immediately introduces you to the Wild West. And I think one of the best opening sequences ever.
Which goes to say that the Wild West was a little bit more intensely wild, because you never knew what to expect, and what kind of mannerisms came from that time period. I mean,
Right.
But in any case, so the boys end up arriving in town, or I think it was in town first, because that's when we meet Pedro and Chico.
He could never get their names right.
Right.
Like for the entire fucking movie, even at the end.
They were still calling dude Chico and Pedro still to the very end.
Well, Chico has a full beard. How do you fucking confuse the two?
Right?
And then they pick a fight with like some dude that was rude to him. And one of the brothers is like, I'm going to engage you in fisticuffs. And that guy's like, that's not how we handle shit out here, boy. And he fucking is going to gun him down. And then for some reason, like, Cemetery or whatever, the ace, I think they call him later, just is kind of like trying to unhitch his horse. He's not even interfering at all. And the guy's like, what the fuck's your problem? And he's playing like he's mute or something at first, which I thought was going to be a running thing. And maybe they did too, but then they dropped it after like the first scene that they shot. And he gets into it, man, and he hits him with like, I don't know what you would call it. It's like the Wild West equivalent of a Vulcan death grip. He just claps his fucking ears and like knocks him out.
Right.
Amazing.
So we get the two brothers evidently following these two Mexicanos to evidently the property that their father evidently owns somewhere off kilter from the town.
First we have that awesome bar fight, remember? Because they're like, oh, we're supposed to take you, and they're like, nah, fuck that, we're gonna go to the hotel, you just wait with the bags. And
I love bar fights in westerns. I mean,
and this one just does them so masterfully, man. It's like one part epic bar fight, one part like Three Stooges physical comedy. So the bar fight basically starts because the bartender tries to like do the classic slide them their fucking pints of beer down the bar, but they just watch it fly off into this guy's poker table. And then the best part is where they're all fucking fighting. And at one point, the guy just grabs the bartender and chucks him out of his own fucking saloon. And he's like, wait a minute. That's not how this is supposed to work. And it's such a good opener to, like, because it gets pretty serious for a second with that first confrontation. And then the bar fight immediately lets you know that the comedy on the wagon train wasn't a one-off. There's going to be a little bit more of that in the movie. Yeah.
Most definitely. I mean, and this isn't the only bar fight that we get throughout this whole movie. There's actually like one or two other scenes.
The finale one was epic.
So I'm actually kind of glad that we get a couple of epic bar scenes here. So, but in any case, so the two brothers end up following Chico and Pedro, or is it Pedro and Chico, or I don't know.
It's interchangeable.
They're interchangeable, right? So they end up going to the McIntyre Ranch, El Rancho or whatever you want to call it. And because you can see the big ass name in the background, the spread, and once they get there, it's kind of chummy, at least at first, at least until this big ass, well, not big ass gangster, but this dude walks in. Like he owns the place, and it's obvious that he's trying to extort money from, the father, and so the boys are like, well, who the fuck are you? and he's like, well, I'm the guy that like runs this place, so best since you guys are young, just keep the fuck out of it and let me deal with,
Yeah, be smart like your father.
And the boys said, fuck this shit. Shit. And they basically just somehow throw him out of there, and that's how pretty much the whole fight starts with them, because we realize later on that that guy's not like the leader of the gang. I think there's another guy, and then like and spoiler alert, folks, we're gonna spoil the shit out of this movie. So,
oh yeah,
if you don't know that by now. But in any case, what do you think about that gangster guy that we see first?
Oh, that whole scene was cool. And I mean, I like the way they set it up where you assume it's him, but then you find out that it's just like a collector for the main boss, who they do a pretty good job of not revealing it until like towards the end, I'm sure we'll get there, but I definitely was not expecting it to be the dude that it turned out to be. So that was pretty neat. But I just love that whole scene where they throw him out, because he kind of punches him, and Chico, like, I think sort of trips him into the chair, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, sir, I'm so clumsy. And then they're like, throw him out. And he says, si, senor, and they're throwing him out. And I think I just did it myself. Chico fucking accidentally slams the door into his face too, and he says it again, like, oh, I'm sorry, senor, I'm so clumsy tonight. Like, even that, they managed to put a little bit of humor in there, but also, it's still serious, like, they just fucking kicked this dude out that's clearly part of like this group of people extorting all these farmers, and they've done it without any thought put into it. Like, they don't even pack guns yet at this point.
Pretty kind of badass, instead of the normal having the bad guy do the throwing out. These guys, even though they know nothing about gunfight, they actually kicked the motherfucker out of there. So
yeah.
I mean, it's not like the gangster got the upper hand in this case.
No, not at all. He's humiliated, if anything.
He almost got his hands chopped off there. But in any case, after that, I believe is when the boys start to realize that their father is not the only one that's being extorted for money, and I guess they start talking to some of the other ranchers, and I guess this is the very beginning when they actually realize, okay, we need some guns. So they go into town.
I think that doesn't happen until after the river scene, because at first they're still like, I don't, because when they first fucking come to that dude's property, they're trying to get him to help them, but they for some reason think they can do it without violence. And that guy's pointing at that grave marker, and he's like, that's how you got to fucking handle it if you want it to stop,
Yeah.
And then after the river scene, when that dude shoots him with that sweet little pepper box gun,
that's pretty sweet.
Oh God, was it? There's so much good gunslinger dialogue in this movie too, which I'm sure we'll cover, but that's when they kind of realize, like, maybe we ought to get some guns. And then bizarrely, instead of looting the corpses of those guys who were loaded with guns, they go and buy them,
So apparently the bad guys had evidently, because they did not like being thrown out, they surrounded them in a river, and evidently the boys had thought it was kosher and cool to just go and like swim in this lake, and all of a sudden they're surrounded by the gang, so that the gangster can show his power. And evidently, this is around this time he wasn't entirely hired.
No,
Uh,
yeah.
he just stepped into the situation.
Oh, he was just strolling by on his horse, and they're like, "Hey, you on the white horse, get over here with these naked dudes. Like, you're now part of this." And we
Right?
got to talk for a moment about how when they were skinny dipping together all in the river, which seems weird to us, but I guess, you know, a long day on horseback in the Wild West, you might need a little dip in the river. But I love how Pedro and Chico both still have their sombreros on when they're both
Right?
skinny dipping.
It's kind of like
Amazing.
if it's kind of like if the boys had actually still been had their shirts on or whatnot, but they I think they just got full butt ass naked in there. So
They did. I think they just didn't want us to forget Pedro and Chico were Mexican or something. I'm pretty sure they covered that when they introduced themselves.
anyways, but
The ponchos might have gave it away. I don't know.
yeah, the ponchos. Of course, they were probably sweating by that time.
Oh God, yeah.
But in any case, so Pedro and Chico and the two McIntyre brothers are all in on this in this lake, and dude, and I'm not even sure what entirely to call him, so I'll just call him Cemetery.
Yeah.
So Cemetery is told to get his to drop his gun belt, and of course they kind of do it slow, like so that
Unbuckle your hardware.
really why yeah, and so he shoots towards him or whatnot, and so he does, and he walks over, and all of a sudden he comes out with this gun that pulls out of his sleeve, and he like shoots like 4 or 5 of them dead, including the main guy, I think.
Oh yeah, blows them all away. He says some sweet shit right before then too, where he's like, "Oh, I just want to know what they need to carve on your tombstone" or something like that.
And I'm not even sure if all throughout the movie whether the boys had entirely agreed to hire him. I think he just kind of stepped into the situation, took control of it, and just kind of directed them where to go.
Well,
Just a bad
after that,
guide.
after that, if you remember right, like that's when we're introduced to Duke, who's like a sweet fucking dude with this collapsible tin cup that he for some reason refuses to use other bigger cups in lieu of.
I want that collapsible cup.
Dude, I was watching this movie called The Mesa of Lost Women, and it's like it's a lot older than this. It's like the 50s. It's about like this mad scientist that's creating spider people up on this fucking hilltop, and they sell you on the movie thinking there's going to be giant spiders. There's one for like 5 minutes. But there's a part where the guy has like the same collapsible tin just without the D on it. And so when I saw that immediately was like, whoa, holy shit. What are the odds? It's super cool. It's weird that he uses it instead of bigger glasses, but whatever. He's a badass, and when he clicks it closed, you know he's going to blow someone away.
That's what kind of sets him apart from Cemetery, because he is obviously another gun for hire.
Right, but his first instinct isn't to blow people away dead.
But he's also not the only gun for hire that we see in here. There is also another more grisly-looking Mexican that shows up looking at them bullets later on, and of course you got the gang members that are technically guns for hire too. So
true, but Duke and Cemetery are like they're the principal characters outside of the McIntyres. Really, like.
Were you getting kind of like they respect each other in a sense?
I think they were brothers, dude.
You think
they look similar, and at the end, not to jump too far ahead, but at the end, there's that like thing where he's like says something about about that whole brothers thing too. I mean, if there's anybody that's more of a son of a whore than you, it's me, or something like that.
He did call him amigo several times. So
yeah. They definitely have a history together, they're previously acquainted.
Yeah, and I guess I like both of them because the one guy, he's evidently just to see what kind of action there is, and he could go either side technically because he was not entirely hired per se either from the other side because when Cemetery pulls all those dudes into that valley, and then they're asked if they can teach these ranchers some lesson, you know.
Yeah, that's when they ask him if he'll teach them how to defend themselves. Because there's that whole scene with Duke after Duke fucking shoots the guns off of those like poker dudes, and it establishes that like even though he's definitely also like a gun for hire dude, his first instinct isn't to just blow people to the fucking grave like Cemetery. You know, his thing is to like shoot their guns off of them unless he's getting paid, basically. And then after that first initial intro to him, there's that scene where the kids come in with their newly bought guns, price tags still hanging off of them and shit. And they're about to like, for some reason, they rub Duke the wrong way. So he's going to teach him a lesson. And that's when Cemetery shows up and he's like, are you that like bloodthirsty? You're about to fucking gun down these kids that still have like price tags on their gun belts and shit. And then after that, I think is when they ask him like, can you like teach us how to use these at least? And he agrees on the condition that nobody knows about it. Like he's not trying to get involved. He'll teach them how to fucking fend for themselves.
Mm-hmm. And then of course, somehow I think he learns about the money, and that's kind of what draws him more into the whole situation.
Uh-huh.
And yet I love how he tricked the kids in the very end into just getting the fuck out of there, like he'd actually stolen their money or some shit.
That bait and switch is one of my favorite things in spaghetti western history that I've ever seen. Like you think that he just fucked him, and then turns out no, he was actually protecting him. And we'll talk more on that in depth for sure. Yeah. But damn, man, that fucking whole montage where they're training and stuff was fun too, for sure.
That was really fun. I mean, you could tell that the Mexicanos they definitely did not know how to shoot their guns, but damn, if anything, they could shoot the knives. Yeah. Although you know that old saying, "Don't bring a knife to a gunfight." You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, we saw how that worked out, ironically, just recently for Danny Trejo and Desperado. And while he did take a few dudes out, he didn't come out of that very well himself. So yeah,
and I love
even if you're accurate with the knives, it's probably not a good idea.
And I love how they had Chico do that little knife stunt to the sheriff. And that was I for some reason I've always loved the interrogation techniques in some of these spaghetti westerns. You know, no, you get someone tied up, and then you throw knives at them. That's just great. That's just terrifying. And
can't go wrong there.
You see them going like I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm not gonna tell you shit. And then all of a sudden that thing goes whizzing by there, and they're like, okay, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I'm done. Especially, I like how they did the gimmick too, where he's like, I have 4 knives or whatever, or 5 knives, and you have the count of 5 on each of them. Like that was fucking savage.
It was pretty savage, especially for the comedy that was coming from these two throughout the whole thing. That was the most serious moment
it gets real right there for all of them, you know. But the training montage, I like that because we see how inept these guys all are going into this. Like they've been operating on pure courage and doing the right thing up to this point, and they really do need Cemetery to teach them how to at least use these guns in a rudimentary fashion, or they are fucked. You know?
Well, yeah, I like the way that he showed them that the gunfighter that'll think, do more thinking is the one who will win the most.
Yeah, you can't be blinded by hatred and shit. You got to just be like focusing on getting that shot off a second before the other dude, you know? And that's like one of my favorite scenes where he's like flipping the gun, and whoever was doing that knew what they were doing. You know, I don't know if it was actually the actor who was doing the gunplay. You could tell they sped it up like a couple
Yeah.
frames per second a little bit, but it was still
Yeah,
smooth the way it was done.
he did say, "Let me show you this slow like," and it still went fast.
Mhm. Yeah. But yeah, that whole training part is dope. And he gets them set up so that they know at least how to defend themselves. They're not going to be as good as him or Duke, obviously, in one day, but they know how to point and shoot at least at that point.
Oh yeah, for sure. So after the training exercising, this is where my mind is just a little foggy. What goes on after that? Let's see. Okay, so after they train, that's when that's when Pedro ends up going and figuring out that the sheriff is actually in on the whole thing, isn't it?
No, they have the town meeting after that part.
That's right, the town meeting.
Everyone's kind of basically saying, like, we should fucking do something about this. I mean, like, these guys are, because now the gang is pissed at this point. They've started going around and fucking burning people's corn cribs and fucking with shit on people's farms. Mm-hmm. And obviously they're turning up the heat. I don't know if it's because they wanted to focus more on the principal characters, but we don't really get to see that. Movie probably could have done with a montage showing them like pillaging Wild West Viking style on these people's farms, just to raise the tension a little bit. But they're having this town meeting and
slow moments in the film, anyways. So,
right,
but
they could have some of that down in
action in this film too. So,
a lot, yeah, it all pays off in the end. But basically, the town folks. Like the McIntyres aren't the only people pissed. They've even got some people in the crowd that are like, they were acting on the benefit of everybody or whatever, and the sheriff is like, I'm just going to resign, whatever the fuck. Yeah. I forget how it devolves into a fight. I do know that fucking main McIntyre brother hits that dude with like the sweetest 1, 2, 3 like fisticuffs combo ever to start the shit off. And then it just devolves into fucking bedlam. People are flying all over again. There's like some good Three Stooges shit happening. Fucking Chico gets like a spittoon stuck on his hand and is just brass knucking people to the face with it and shit. I'm pretty sure at one point he accidentally punches one of the McIntyre brothers. Like it just is the best bar fight I've ever seen in a Western.
It was actually pretty epic. I mean, it all ends up with all 4 of them like shot out the bar, and that's when they noticed the brand new saddle and stirrups that they were trying to figure out. Okay, how much money would it take for you to earn yourself to get this kind of thing?
Yeah, it's like a $400 saddle.
That's the sheriff's horse, so he must be on the take. So
he was just complaining about making $2 a day too. So that he's fucking getting extra money from somewhere.
Right. So that's when Pedro ends up going and talking to Senor, and he's invited in, and that's when Chico clocks both of them out, and that is fucking hilarious. I don't know why.
He straight tells him too. That's what you get for fucking losing yourself and coming in a door before a gringo.
And then he kind of tells him, "You starting to look like you more crazy than anything else, like some of these gringos here." So, I just like the way that Chico talks sometimes.
They're definitely like a caricature of your Mexican porters that you see sometimes in, I don't know if you call them a porter, whatever, dude. You're hired. You see it in spaghetti westerns. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you see like fucking like exploration movies and they've hired a random Asian dude or like a random fucking
right thing. Sometimes they're not exactly politically correct.
Yeah, it was 1972. They left those guys sombreros on them when they were skinny dipping, so we didn't forget they were Mexicans. So that's
it's, hey man, don't fuck with the sombrero, man.
Hey, dude, they might be onto something there, though. You ever get like super sunburned swimming at the beach? I mean, it fucking happened. If I was wearing a sombrero, though, maybe not.
What,
There's some good logic to that,
what's
perhaps.
interesting is that Ugo was what played an Italian in a Cat of Nine Tails, but yet here he's playing a Mexicano. So
See, I'm gonna
that,
have to go back, bud, because honestly, I didn't notice him from Cat of Nine Tails. I'm sure you mentioned this when we talked about it
remember the
previously.
thief? Remember the thief?
I do.
The guy with the earring.
Yeah, he's in Cat of
Uh,
Nine Tails.
yeah, he was in Cat of Nine Tails. Pedro, the same guy here who plays Pedro. It was that thief who brought that newspaper reporter into that house, even though he was calculating. Okay, if I do this,
Oh, dude, that totally is the badass lock picking guy. Holy shit!
I told you.
Oh, see,
See,
I'm so
that's
glad
why.
that this movie kicked so much ass that I'm gonna watch it multiple times because now I get to enjoy that on subsequent viewings. But it totally is the dude. He looks almost identical too in both movies.
That
He's
is
just wearing a sweet headband for his lock picking in Cat of Nine Tails.
that is the exact reason why I wanted to go on about this one is because the two could the it seemed like it was connected with in that fashion.
Yeah, and
So,
let me just say, okay, go, because I don't know if I got to touch on this in the Cat of Nine Tails discussion, but if you don't have long hair and you put on a headband to do lock picking or any type of intricate, like if you're putting it on just to get yourself fucking in the mindset to do, I'm sold right away. I immediately think you know what you're doing. So, just word of advice: if you ever really want to know what you're doing, especially if you don't have long hair, just put on a headband before you do it, and then people know you mean fucking business.
right. Well, in any case, after the interrogation scene, that's when, of course, sheriff goes back to the head dude, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I told them where the money was." And of course, a little bit before that, we get the little scene where they found all the money stashed at the missionary.
Yeah, yeah, and he traps him in there, which I don't understand why they couldn't just get out, but it would have deprived us of the shootout at the end, so that's why they had to stay put.
Right. Which I'll get to the shootout later because to me, part of the shootout was like in darkness. So to me,
I couldn't see what the fuck was going on. I was just imagining it.
to me, it felt like it might have been some nitrate problems or something like that. But all of a sudden, it was bright as fucking day. So to me, it was like they decided to shoot at night in one moment, and then it's like they decided to okay, boys, let's finish this up tomorrow morning.
Yeah. But they were probably doing it, dude, or something. And I don't know if they could look at dailies back then, but maybe they looked at it and they're like, you can't see shit. We can't afford film to reshoot it, but let's just do the rest of it tomorrow,
Right?
Because you really can't see shit. I mean, I imagine there was something went on where like the dudes were missing at first, the McIntyres, and then eventually hit home a couple of times. Or
I
something.
imagine that this film would look a hell of a lot better if they found like some or remastered it or something like that. Because I could see that this film could clean up a little bit.
Oh yeah, there's got to be like original fucking stock of it somewhere that they could do like a dope, like super cleaned up release of to an extent. Because the other stuff, like even on this print of it we watched on YouTube, it was pretty good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't as bad as I thought going in. I mean, it's a little fuzzy here and there.
Yeah,
but I think that's just part of the age and part of the grindhouse look.
Well, and someone clearly uploaded it from like a multi-pack transfer of it. It's like a really good multi-pack transfer. It's not, any 4K shit or like, the Arrow releases you're going to go and watch on Tubi of horror movies or something.
Well, yeah.
It looks good if you're comparing it to like other shit me and you are a lot more used to watching on because multi-packs, you get the really like awkwardly cropped ones where half of the fucking credits are cut off and and this one, it suffered a little bit from that, but overall quality, it was like pretty damn good considering.
Oh yeah. So, in any case, so let's go backwards just a little bit. Let's see what happened after. Okay, so the sheriff, he went of course to Tattletale, because that's what they do. It was like, excuse me, boss. Yeah, I kind of fucked up and kind of told them where the money was, but you know what? I locked them up. And, uh, 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 they didn't get the money or whatnot. So
And then that rat fink son of a bitch tries to extort more money out of the crime boss right there, who is revealed to be that original farmer that they came to for help, who played like he shot one of the collectors. Really, it's fucking him the whole time.
yeah.
And old Sheriff McGuggins or whatever the fuck, like, decides that he's gonna demand some type of reward off of that guy, and he's like, I do believe you deserve a reward. Die, motherfucker! And he just shoots him while he's drinking his wine. I love that part so much for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, sheriff, you're obviously gonna die. But in any case, so a little bit after that is where we get the last fight scene. If I'm not too,
Well,
or is it in
after
between?
that, we get the farmer, the boss man. You know, what did you think of that reveal, by the way? I was not seeing that coming. For some reason, I thought that it was going to be someone totally unrelated, or it was going to just
I
be the
honestly
sheriff.
think about the reveal there. I mean, more or less, I was more aghast at the fact that the money was in the boot. You know, I mean, I I didn't see the rocks in that.
Yeah, that was crazy. But the whole reveal of the farmer, like that original farmer that they went to his house, being the main bad guy, was just nuts. Because he was the dude at the town meeting that they said they went and burned his corn cribs, which
Yeah,
was smart. It was him fucking burning his own corn cribs.
he
So it
made
looked.
himself out to look like the victim.
Yeah, in most movies, I mean, most reveals like this, you can see coming a mile away. I do have to give the movie a big fucking credit for actually making me be like, oh, whoa, it was this dude. If anything, I thought it might have been like that judge guy at the town meeting, or one of the, sort of innocuous random characters that you would never suspect.
That could have been a possibility, but no, I didn't see it coming, and I was kind of like taken aback at that too. Once it was all revealed like that, and so on and so forth. But I also like the camaraderie of Duke and Cemetery in the end there, because they come off like two guys that look like they're about to shoot the shit out of each other, and they end up like somehow kind of like coming away from the situation arm in arm almost,
Yeah, dude, that's
like that,
directly.
like they would have hated to have walked away from the situation with one of them dead, you know.
Yeah, they were happy to have an excuse not to kill each other and meet another day to see who's fastest, which is one area where, to me, in my mind, that's directly ripped from a Zatoichi movie.
Well,
There's one where there's this dude that's like hired by the other gang to fucking do some shit, and him and Zatoichi kind of form this bond throughout the movie, and then at the end, the dude's dead and they're not paying the other samurai anymore. So he's like, well, I'm not gonna fucking kill you if I'm not getting paid, And to be fair, we've seen that in other spaghetti western type stuff too, I'm sure. So it's maybe not 100% for sure these particular people ripped it from a Zatoichi movie, but I definitely saw that in a Zatoichi movie before, and I loved it. It's that mutual respect of the gunslingers or the swordmaster guys, where it's like, we're really just doing this because this is what we do. But if we're not gonna, benefit from this, there's no benefit in just killing each other. So fuck it.
Right.
And at the end, I think they're even considering going and getting a job up north together or something like that.
Well, and I think one guy was going to go north, one guy was going to go south, and I think they kind of like jokes that well, if you're going to be in the North, why should I have the need to be in the North when I know we're just going to come up against this whole situation over again, where we just might be too big for each other.
You're either going to get hired to do what I want to get hired to do, or we're going to have to kill each other. So what's the fucking point?
Right. So, I get that because when you're kind of known as like some badass gunslinger, you want to be able to have a job in whatever town that you're going to figure out whether you have a job there or not. I mean, obviously, there's always going to be someone who has a bounty on their head.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, they do a lot. We kind of didn't really touch on it, but there's definitely multiple parts in the movie where Duke and Cemetery sort of talk about these rules of their profession,
Right.
And it's just kind of a mutual courtesy thing. Like,
I love these rules that they seem to have these unwritten rules where they're never supposed to eat from the same plate or something like that. Wasn't it?
Yeah, it's basically them saying, like, we're not supposed to be getting in these situations where we're on opposite sides of the fucking conflict, Like, if someone's got a job in some conflict, you're supposed to just mosey on. They both got involved in it before they knew each other was involved. That was the only reason they really stay.
Yeah. And I guess that's... I guess that may be like some kind of code of conduct or some.
Oh yeah, and then that sense of
pirate's code or the what is it, the like in Dungeons and Dragons where they have the honor amongst thieves.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically exactly what it is, and you could tell part of them is kind of curious to see who's better. I don't know that I could put money on either of them either. They're both absolute badasses. I mean,
no, because they both seem to have accuracy. I mean, you got to see the accuracy from that little fucking gun that Cemetery pulled out, and of course, again later with Duke, where he took out them poker guys. Well, he didn't take out the poker guys, but he at least maimed them enough that they couldn't have their shooting hands for a couple of days.
Right. And there's that part where they're fucking him and Duke are talking, and those gangsters are like around them. And at one point, they both turn around and shoot each side of that guy's mustache off of his face.
Right.
That was fucking gangster as shit, dude. They're just like, shut the fuck up. The adults are talking, kind of thing. And my God, was that amazing. And then the whole, I mean, what did you think about that whole imagery of the spinning coin and them looking at each? I mean, that's just...
That was bizarre. I mean, to me, I mean, that was a big ass coin, first of all.
It really was. It was like a doubloon or some shit. It wasn't even...
That was a silver dollar. I guess that must have been the silver dollar or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
You always hear about the silver dollar in the wild west, and that was some big honking coin.
I thought he was gonna flip it up in the air, and they were gonna go when it came down like normal, but he just like ninja flipped it onto this fucking rock, and it starts spinning like a goddamn Beyblade or something.
Right. I mean, he had to have some talent or some shit as a magician, or even as a sideshow like dude who might have been like in some carny. I was getting some carny feel or something like that.
A little bit, yeah. And he had, see, the thing is, Duke had like an army jacket on.
Yeah, in fact, he kind of reminded me of his whole getup. Kind of reminded me of like.
It's almost like when you see depictions of Colonel Custard or something.
Yeah,
he had the long hair and the hat and the fucking army jacket,
Yeah, the last Union Army officer that didn't realize the war was over,
or just didn't want it to be. It's like those guys that intentionally stayed in Vietnam after the shit. Like, I just like it over here. Deer hunter shit, playing Russian roulette.
I'm
Uh,
still killing those Vietnamese.
right.
But
But again, they play perfectly against each other. I mean, like, really, that's the takeaway from the end of the movie, because largely in part to the gunfight being partially in darkness, we don't really get to enjoy that as much as we should.
oh yeah,
So the showdown between Duke and Cemetery is, like, in my mind, the finale. Well, it is the finale, but it is like the main finale of the movie. It's not just an afterthought after the gun battle. And obviously, we both know they don't kill each other, and so do the people, because we've talked about the ending. But basically, is it the main bad guy that's like gonna try to shoot him from in there, and fucking Cemetery whips around and like shoots that fucking support
yeah,
beam, and, like,
he was still alive, and I think that's what Duke knew, and that's why he was going to act like he was going to kill him, because there was still one guy that was supposedly his client that was still alive. So
yep.
he wasn't sure whether he saw him or not. Or not.
Neither of them was. So if you remember, like, Cemetery says some shit like, I had half a mind to think that you didn't see him or whatever, or that I think Duke says, I had half a mind to think you didn't see him. And Cemetery says, well, I had half a mind to think that you did. Like, he knew that he was fucking over there and was probably going to shoot him. But, like you said, after he blows that, and man, that's the most savage death in the movie for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, cave in. Oh my god,
right on his fucking dome.
Just one shot, and the fucking thing just caves in.
Yeah, perfectly placed. And then after that, there's no reason for Duke to fuck with it anymore.
He saved his life, I think. Wasn't it? No, I mean,
I think he saved. It was one of those things where it's like a lie by omission, right? Like, he was down for that guy to shoot Cemetery if that's what happened, because he was getting paid. So there's that code of honor to it. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't gonna, you know what I mean, continue after the dudes. Like, he wanted to leave it open for Cemetery to be able to take him out. If he was trying to just screw him, he easily could have shot him while the coin was still spinning.
True. But I think that let's talk about special effects here then. What did you think about the special effects of the film? I liked some of the ways that the camera like moved on, like some of Chico's knives. You actually saw like the glint of the knives. And
cinematography wise, the movie was fucking top notch, man. I mean, it's and even like I mentioned, that scene with the spinning coin in their eyes, going like that, built tension like a motherfucker.
Well, yeah. For some reason, seeing the spinning like off in the distance, and yet seeing their face like right next to the coin, that was a little bit interesting.
Yeah, it was intense. It made you not know when, you were like sitting there like, oh god, and then when he shot that dude, if anything, the only flaw in that scene was they didn't make it happen as quick as it could have, so that you were like startled by it, but then you're like, oh, they didn't shoot each other, it was this dude.
Well, it still was tense moment. I mean,
for sure.
My God, I mean, it's just like that moment. What was that? There's a movie that has Gene Hackman in it, and what should we call it? A dude from Titanic, Leonardo DiCaprio. And I think there's a moment where they're looking at the clock, and it's back and forth. Maybe it was Matt Damon. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. That doesn't sound familiar to me, but I'm just based on your description of the scene, I can see what you're saying. Like, yeah, those types of things build tension real good, and that's what you want in a situation like that. A lot of the gunfights, even though it was half of darkness, I would say those are on par with like any Western I've really seen from the time period. There wasn't a lot in the way of like, squibs or anything like that to, they did it old school style where people were just kind of dropping where they fell. But, everyone that got shot's performance was pretty good. So it made it believable.
Okay, it was the quick and the dead I was thinking of.
That's an amazing movie too. And I don't know why I didn't immediately think of that, but I always think of Lance Henriksen with his badass card boots and shit. Fucking love that movie, dude. I used to watch that like every time it would come on TV. I don't know how I
Well,
didn't immediately know
well,
that.
while we're going with these Universal, you and I will have to take some Western.
Oh yeah, this is the start of a beautiful thing here, people. We are not done with spaghetti
No,
westerns.
I got plenty of multi packs that we can work off of. So,
And if we ever run out, we'll just start doing samurai movies. So it'll be
right,
basically the same shit, you know.
right, I got plenty of those too. So,
I think that, you know, like I said, you know, there wasn't a lot of squib work or anything like that. There wasn't too much special effects to go wrong. It was all really good, you know, gun handling and gun choreography and fight choreography, you know.
I love the gun work for sure during the training, and I think that that might actually lead into my favorite scene. My favorite scene is the training exercises. I mean, that was for some sure legit, you know, teaching going on there, and I love it when you get gunfighters that actually like are kind of like those old samurai eyes that are kind of like Splinter, and you know from the Teenage Ninja Turtles that'll be like
They're teaching them how to be like centered and focus on the task. You know, there's like that one part where the prettier brother, which he was a lot prettier than that main brother.
yeah.
Fucking, he straight tells him like, you're not showing off to the girl up the street, man. You know, just point and fucking squeeze the trigger. You know,
Right.
you keep your mind on the task type thing. You don't got to look good doing it.
What were some of your favorite scenes in this particular feature?
Well, you know, you can't deny the gun-toting granny at the beginning, sniffing her snuff, and she's blowing away cactuses, and that stagecoach guy's like, "What the hell's going on?" And she's holding the gun, and he's like, "Cool the fucking iron, granny," or whatever. Like he says some shit like, "Cool the iron." I thought that was like really cool.
When you need him.
The bar fights, obviously, and then the whole finale with Duke and Cemetery. I mean, that to me is like hands down one of the best moments I've ever seen in a spaghetti western or a samurai movie. I mean, and then just the way it all ended on such a lighthearted note really spoke to the tone of the rest of the movie, where it's like dead fucking serious, but at the same time has fun being dead serious, you know.
Okay.
And I think that's a good description for the movie as a whole. You know, there's definitely comedy and slapstick elements to it, but it never becomes totally goofy, you know. So I think that final scene kind of illustrates that very well. So that would be mine if I had to vote for a final definitive favorite scene, is just that showdown between them.
Oh yeah, I mean that showdown was kind of epic in its own way. So
Obviously, honorable mention to the fucking sombreros and the skinny dipping scene. That'd be one of my favorite things for a long time.
Yeah, that's gonna be one of my favorite scenes as well for some odd reason. I mean,
It's just hilarious, dude. And then it ends so savage with him, you know, pepper boxing those fools. And that's one area where the cinematography was kind of, I think, a little ahead of its time too, because it does like a point of view of the gun shot when he kills those dudes.
Yeah, I mean that's what I love about some of these Italian spaghetti west. Such camera movement when it came to the gunplay, and
it's that sense of style, man. Just like in the fucking Giallo movies and the splatter movies and stuff. Like there's that Italian sense of style that comes into play with it that we just don't get in some of our, you know.
Especially in this day and age. I mean, it goes to show you that some of these westerns actually stand the test of time. So, but in any case, is there anything else that you would like to add to this film before we?
Well, what do you think about the score? I think we'd be doing everyone a great disservice if we didn't mention how much that fucking theme song kicks ass at first.
I really liked the score. I mean, it was pretty amazing for that beginning sequence, and the music was actually by Bruno Nicolai. I don't know if that makes any difference, but
I mean,
I
I might know him based on movies he's done, but not based on the name.
got
Fuck.
he had some of the, evidently some of his music was actually on the Inglorious Bastards 2009 soundtrack, the Kill Bill Volume 2 soundtrack.
Nah, that wouldn't surprise me. Quentin coming and drawn from this type of shit.
In the music department there. So
I would say this, okay? The theme rules. The majority of the score kicks ass, but they drive the whistle home a little too hard. There's a part where that whistle's in there, and it's like, dude, nothing even cool is happening. Stop with the whistle. Like, I'm kind of over it now, you know? Fucking, we get it. They did it in Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or whatever. Like, I don't need the whistle every 5 minutes.
You know what? Just for that matter, after we get the creature discussion, which I'm planning on doing next Sunday, by the way, if you can do all three creatures in one take, well, let's do it.
I think if anyone can do it, it's us, Dave.
And then after that, just for that matter, we're going to go on about the Whistler.
Yeah.
And I've got all 13 movies of those.
Holy shit. I don't even know what this is, to be honest. Are you talking about fucking, what is this?
There was a noir, a series of films, and it was based on the radio program called The Whistler. And there was a series of films that I believe there's either 11 or 13 of them. And I ended up getting a bootleg copy of all of them. So they're not too bad. But I think we should definitely do at least the first.
I'm down. Yeah, I'm down to cover some big series shit like that too. I think eventually it'd be cool someday for us to really knuckle into the fucking Zatoichi movies and just do every single one of those. But there's like 23 of those or some shit.
I know, and I need to eventually get the set. And I don't have any of that, so
I don't think either of us are really trying to drop that chunk of change for it right now either. But eventually, when me and Dave both have it, maybe we'll think about doing that for you guys, and it'll be a fucking epic adventure for sure.
But on that note, there are some samurai films that I'm going to have him pick up so that we can go on about them, because they're pretty sweet ass samurai movies, because those are different than martial arts films.
They are, and it bums me out when they get looped into the same thing. I don't know why. It just to me, well, I do know why, because they're totally different in vibe and you know everything. Like it's just they're to me they're not the same as a kung fu movie at all. But yeah, definitely, you know, like fucking obviously we got like Lone Wolf and Cub or any of the Kurosawa movies. That'd be a fun thing to tackle.
Bruce Lee, some of his films.
Weirdly, Sonny Chiba is one of those guys that's been in some kung fu movies and some samurai movies. You know,
Sonny Chiba. I got a few of his films around here somewhere.
Oh man, The Street Fighter, The Bodyguard, those are so fucking good. I love that part at the end of The Bodyguard where he rescues the kid and they're just walking away. I don't know if this is just in the dub that I have, but he literally says this. They're walking away like into the sunset after he defeats all the dudes, and he just pats the kid on the back and he says, "Sorry, kid, you're going to a foster home." I'm sure in Chinese it was a little softer in the delivery, but yeah, holy shit. Just
alrighty, man. I think that's all the time we have for today, folks, but definitely check this film out. I mean, it's for free on YouTube for right now. I don't know how long it will be up there, but it's definitely worth at least a one-time watch. I'm definitely going to watch this again eventually down the road, because I love that Man in Black kick-em-ass kind of movie, and it's kind of got like all the cool plots that spaghetti western should actually have. So
It hits all the fucking bullet points or whatever, and you know, if you liked that type of shit and you also like stuff with a little bit of humor to it, it's gonna blend together perfectly, you know.
Oh yeah. So in any case, thank you for listening. Definitely check out some of our other discussions here. Like we said, we're going to be going back to the Universal films and start to do some of those. In fact, we might even do multi legacy collection discussions. Just do like entire series.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's like, I think you have them all, right?
Yeah, I have every single Universal Legacy collection that there is, and that's
yeah. And I'm just missing Invisible Man and fucking The Mummy, which I think are a couple of the smaller ones. So I can easily get those off of Dave, and we will definitely be bringing you those discussions.
Definitely.
It's gonna be a good time.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. Like, share, and subscribe, and definitely check this film out. It was a blast. So thank you. And this week we're gonna be going on Inside Movies Galore with two gore-ish kind of movies, where they evidently it's not exactly the Evil Dead that you know.
No.
So we're going to get trapped in the evil deadness of the Evil Trap and the Evil Trap 2. So stay tuned for that, ladies and gentlemen, on Tuesday evening at about 9 p.m. Central. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your evening wherever you are, and just enjoy films. So
yeah, and remember, if you're ever without a pacifier, a bullet from your Colt will work just as good for your baby.
Right. All righty, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, all.
Take care.